Hey everyone, welcome back to On the Road to Recovery. We have Ryan from Akron, Ohio here with us to talk about his recovery story. Hi Ryan, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you for asking. So we'll just get started with the very beginning. So tell me about your childhood. What was it like? Did you grow up with both your parents, school life, that kind of thing?
Yeah, childhood was great. I'm adopted. I was adopted at a very young age. I think it was only a couple of months. And my parents were very open with that, with me growing up. Like, I remember in my bedroom as a kid, there was a book, Why Was I Adopted? And when I was able to understand it, I was like, why was I adopted? I was like, what is this? And they were always open about it and very cool. And, we discussed it, even as I was a young child. So there was never like, don't talk about, being adopted, because sometimes that's a thing.
Yeah.
And they loved me, like my parents, they loved all of us. My two sisters provided for us. We had everything that we needed. School, home life was great. My mom was sick from when I was early on. So I remember going to the hospital with my mom. She had cancer, breast cancer. And she was diagnosed actually before I was born. And then it kind of came back, and I just remember as a kid, sometimes mom was in the hospital for a couple of days, and then, then it went into remission, and then it came back, and my mom actually passed away when I was in high school, and I was 16, and it was tough. That's no shock. My mom passed away when I was a teenager. Yeah, it was tough, and. That's really kind of, if I had to pinpoint, I had, smoked pot, and I had, had a couple of natty lights, here and there. And I remember that being almost a turning point. In hindsight, I can look back and say, definitely, it was a point where I really started kind of, getting into things. And that was kind of I'm going to experiment a little more. And it's funny, I had a little more freedom. My dad was still working, and I'm this high school kid, and I have my car, and my sister's in college, my younger sister's in high school, and my dad had to work, and he had to provide for us, and I was alone a lot. I was kind of left to my own devices, and I took advantage of that.
Yeah.
I would have we would have snow days in high school, and I'd be like, come on over, and we'd have day parties that we called them, and it was fun then. Hindsight, I'm looking back and I'm like, ooh, it was probably a warning sign. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it started to escalate for me.
Bit.
Yeah.
So you were 16. So were your sisters adopted also?
My older sister was.
Okay.
So my parents didn't think that they could have children.
Okay.
They had a couple of miscarriages along the way, and they adopted my older sister. And 4 years later, they adopted me. And then it was just a few months after they adopted me, they found out they were pregnant with my younger sister. So she was kind of like the miracle baby. And so my younger sister and I, we're only 10 months apart.
Wow.
And then people are like, oh, wow. And I'm like, no. I'm adopted. So that was cool. She was like my best friend growing up. We would just hang out and pal around. And she was my buddy. And yeah. So it was very much the nuclear family. It was, kind of storybook, and then, when mom passed away, things changed a lot. And my dad, God bless him, he did amazing. He sacrificed a lot, and still does. I'm almost 40 years old. I just turned 39, and I just had a baby, and I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, when do you stop worrying about your children? He's like, never. And I was like, oh yeah. But he's an amazing person, and I would not be where I'm at in recovery without him and his help my whole life.
So when you were 16, you were in high school, obviously, and you said it started getting worse. The drug use or alcohol use started getting worse. Do you feel like you used it as a coping mechanism for your mom?
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
Did you go to therapy or anything after she passed?
No, I did not. It probably could have been beneficial, but I dealt with it on my own and in my own way. And a lot of that was, at least in high school, was, drinking on the weekends and smoking pot. By senior year, I was smoking a lot. you know, like, and like my dad had caught me a couple of times and like, that's not mine. Like, that's Jake's, or, you know, but I think there was a lot, I never confronted it, you know, head on. And I mean, who does at 16? You know, it's hard to expect that from a 16-year-old, but yeah, that was really when it took off. And, you know, with the pot smoking and the wanting to have fun.
Right.
Like I talked about those day parties, that was because I didn't want to be at home alone.
Right.
You know, like I wanted people there. I wanted something to occupy that time where it wasn't just me left with that, you know, feeling.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know.
So did you graduate?
Yeah.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, for a very short time. Well, I shouldn't say that. So I went to OU right out of high school, and everyone's like, OU, yeah, like, and yeah, I went to OU to party. Like, I didn't go there. I was a psychology major. It's like, yeah, okay. I could have used a psychologist, but I wasn't any sort of psychologist myself. So I declared that, but it was about the party. It wasn't about going to school to get an education. It was about, you know, meeting girls, and it was about going to parties. And if you want to kind of encapsulate my college experience, at least at OU, you can do so in one night. The very first night that I was there, I got so drunk, and I met this girl from Westlake, which is around the Cleveland area. And like we started talking, and I was on the side of the rugby house where we were partying, throwing up because I drank like however many natty ices out of the keg, like, and I was like, oh yeah, that was probably a sign that this wasn't going to go very far. But, you know, I was drinking every day. I was smoking every day. I was about that next buzz. I was about that next party. So I left there. I was asked to leave there, and I was really upset about it. Like I was like depressed about it, and I was like, well, it's my own fault. Like I did it to myself. I knew what I was doing. You know, I actively chose to drink and to party, and so.
So it sounds like it was definitely progressing in college. So kind of after that, did you see more of a progression? What happened, you know, once you returned home? And
Once I got home from OU, I was never really into, you know, I was a pot smoker and I was a drinker, and a pretty heavy drinker. Not necessarily every day, but every time I drank, it was like to the point of this is a problem. But I noticed myself stepping out a little more, you know, hanging out with people I wouldn't necessarily, because they had something maybe that I wanted.
Right.
They had something else, like I was like, oh, okay, you know, and I found myself kind of doing that more. But it was never a problem, you know, I'm just having fun, you know. And I went to broadcasting school, and it's funny, when I saw this commercial for this broadcasting school, and I was like, I want to do that. Like, that's cool. And that was me, you know, like I'd see something and be like a nice shiny nickel, and I'm like, ooh, I want that. And I told my dad, and he was like, this is your last chance. Because I had been to school and I had gone nowhere with it, and I was like, Dad, I really want to do this. And it panned out, like it's my career now, and I'm grateful, unbelievably grateful for having done that. And it's kind of like, oh, I saw the commercial and I did it, and now I'm a success. And it's like, but there were a lot of ups and downs in between. Like, I didn't just jump into it. Like,
right.
I had a lot of points where I was like, you know, because of, you know, alcoholism and because of, you know, dealing with addiction, I almost lost it a lot. I really almost let it go quite a bit. So while I was in broadcasting school, I was working at a pizza shop, and this old ex-con that I worked with, like, he's like, here, you know, I got this, I got that. And, you know, we hung out way more than we should. And I was in a really bad spot. But I recognized, I was about 26. I recognized that I was in a really bad spot. And I recognized what I was about to lose in my school, like broadcasting. And I was still living with my dad. And I like consciously stopped. I was like, no, I'm done. And I did. I'd still drinking and stuff. But I was like, okay, I got to focus. And I really just stopped, like, doing other things. And I was like, oh, you know, it's like they say, I got it licked.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea about AA at this point. Like, And I knew what it was, obviously, but I never thought it for me.
Yeah.
I never thought I was an alcoholic, you know?
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. I could just stop. And
yeah.
so over that time, I met a girl. I got married. I got a job in Florida. I moved down there. You know, I was working. Had a great job. I was still drinking. I didn't really smoke anymore. I kind of gave up smoking pot a little bit here and there. But yeah, I thought it was cool. I mean, meanwhile, everything around me was like collapsing. The job was okay. That I handled that pretty well. But you know, my home life, my marriage, I was a terrible partner. Like I was the worst, and I didn't realize that until actually just a few years ago. We're since divorced, but you know, I was about me. It was about what I wanted to do and what I didn't care what anybody else wanted.
Would you say that you were obsessed at that point with alcohol?
Yes, in the extent that you know, I was obsessed with that party. I was obsessed with, I don't want to be here, I want to be there. You know, I want to be out. I want to be at a concert. I want to be at a friend's house drinking. I want to be, you know, this, that, or this. So yeah, the obsession was there, for sure.
And obviously you have more of an experience with like the party lifestyle, but how were you feeling internally? Did you feel misunderstood, or why was this happening to me, or alone in any way?
Oh, I mean, all of it. I was mad at myself for giving up on a career, giving up, you know, some of it was circumstantial, but I was mad at my wife at the time for, you know, so yeah, I guess I felt misunderstood. Mm-hmm. And it certainly wasn't any of her fault. Like, that's not the case. I was mad at my dad just because, you know. Yeah, I was feeling all of it. I was very sad. I was depressed. You know, I blamed where I was at in my life on everything else. You know, I blamed it on my mom. I blamed it on her dying. You know, I blamed it on, you know, having to leave Florida and this, that, and the other. And I never really looked at myself and said, well, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing to myself? What am I doing for myself? Which was nothing good, at least. But.
So what was like the turning point for you that you were just like, enough is enough, and I'm going to, you know, stop drinking, get help?
Yeah. Well, I got in trouble. We'll just leave it at that.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, right. That's a whole nother video. But yeah, I had a good job. I had, you know, that was it. That's all I had. I had a good job. But it was slipping away because of my extracurriculars, because of the partying. And I got in trouble coming home from a work-related event. And it was just me. Like, I was an hour away from home, and I was drinking like I was at the corner bar. And I was like, I got this. And you know the story. I mean, Everybody's told it. So I got in trouble, and I was actually forced into treatment, and you know, through the court. What do they say? The nudge from the judge. So I got that, and I had to do it. And I called a friend, actually a friend from high school, who I knew worked in recovery, and I knew was sober. And I called him, and I was like, "Hey, man," I was like, "So here's the situation." I was like, and I said to him, I was like, "I think I got a problem." And he asked me, the first question he asked me was, "Do you think you're an alcoholic?" And I was like, no. It's like, what are you talking about? And then he was like, well, hear me out. And then he kind of explained, and I was like, okay, well, maybe. I was like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So he hooked me up with the right people. Stella in Cleveland, amazing, unbelievable place. I am so grateful for them and the people there. So I got into Stella, and I was outpatient, IOP. So I was there 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and I did it for a while, and then I slipped, and I actually had to go back to the judge because I slipped, and God bless her, the judge gave me another shot, and you know, that was my whole life though. I was always getting another shot, and So I made it work again, and then I finished Stella, and I was good. I was good for a while, but I was hanging on to something else. Like I got myself into a relationship really quick, which they say like you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
And I was convinced. I was like, oh, this person understands me and accepts me, and I was wide open with them, about, hey, I'm in recovery, and hey, this is where I'm at. But it was just a bad spot for both of us. Neither of us should have been in that relationship, and nothing against her. She was great. Just we weren't great for each other.
Right.
And it ended just kind of quickly, and that set me off. And I was at the lowest point of my life because I had hinged myself to this other person, and I had hinged my recovery on that other person. And she wasn't in recovery, like, she wasn't an alcoholic. But I was like, this is the first person that I was able to be open with, so this must be it. Like, and I hinged myself to this person, and when it ended, I fell. Like, I didn't know where to go. Like, I knew where to go, AA and my sponsor and, my support group, but I didn't. I avoided them all. And so I was alone, and I was in my apartment, and I was calling off work, and I was destroying myself is what I was doing. Like, I was killing myself, however slowly. And I remember one night, it was like way too late, and I had to be at work. I get to work at like 4 a.m. So I'm like, ugh. I was like, I guess I'm gonna be calling off again. And I just broke down. Like I was like, this is it. Like, and I said, they always say, like, there's that moment where you look in the mirror and it's like, God help me. And I said those words, like, God help me. And he did.
So that was it. How long have you been sober now?
2 years. I had 2 years on August 5th. Yeah, so I'm like new 2 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
But that was your moment of clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty
and
strong.
It's, oh my!
You remember those?
Oh my God! I know exactly where I was, what I was doing. And it's funny. It's funny that term, moment of clarity, because everything in my life was so opaque and so unclear, and it was so like it was dangling on this string, and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see myself anywhere.
Right.
There was no future, that I saw for myself.
Right.
But that moment of clarity, it's like,
yeah.
And it's like, wow.
Yeah,
I made all of that.
Thought of that, but that is what it is.
Yeah. It's like that wiper blade. It's like wiper blades. They never work right, except once. Like you're like in the middle of a storm and it's like all streaky and it's like, oh, but then you get that one, you're like, I can see. And that was that one swipe that I was like, okay. And I had some time before that. Like I said, like I had relapsed and I had some time. So I called, the people that I knew would be there, and God bless them, they were there. And one of my best friends in the entire world that I've known since high school, who was also in recovery, he really lifted me up. I owe that man a lot. I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but he helped me along the way, and so many others, and my dad, unbelievable. My dad's old school, like he's 81, he's an old timer, and he is very, I don't know how I want to say this, but he's of a certain mindset, and throughout my recovery, that mindset has broadened and expanded so much. Like, I'm proud of myself, but I'm even more proud of my dad for what he's done and how much he's helped me and how much he has listened. And I mean, if you would have told me years and years ago, I'd be like, yeah, right. But he has shown up and he has shown out, and he is just an incredible human being.
I know what you mean, though. It's so hard on family members,
right? And
then they're there for you even after all of it,
right?
And more so than they should be, or
right.
That we deserve. And it's just like,
right.
How are they so
Right.
great human beings.
It's amazing.
So let's talk about your sobriety then. What do you do to maintain your sobriety?
I stay in contact with people. I'm doing meetings. It's funny, like we're in this pandemic now, and I was like, oh, Zoom meetings. How am I going to do Zoom meetings? I love Zoom meetings.
Do you?
They're my favorite. Like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm kind of lazy. So like I was going to, at St. Thomas, there is a morning meditation meeting. It's every day in Akron, St. Thomas in Akron. And it's every day, and it's at 6:45. And I was getting up and going, I could only, because of my work schedule, I could only go Saturday and Sunday to that one. So I was getting up at 6 on Saturday and Sunday, and which was okay for me.
Right.
But like the process, getting up, going there, driving there, I was like, ugh. But I get there and that'd be great, and I get my AA and I'd be like, yay. Now I can get up at like 6:40 and dial in and be like, hey y'all, and like get my meeting, and it's great. There's people from all around the world now. Where it was an Akron meeting, like there are people on there from England, Australia, like Ireland, all over, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's like 100 people on there every time I'm on. I'm like, wow.
Very cool.
So I do the Zooms. I probably not as he's gonna see this and be like, no, you don't. Like, but I keep in contact with my sponsor.
Yeah, me too.
Not as much as I know, right? Not as much as I should. But I think one of the biggest things for me is I make myself available. Like if I'm asked something recovery related, yeah, okay, I'll do it if I can.
Yeah.
I have a newborn at home, so like
right.
It's kind of hindered that a little bit, but even out, I shouldn't say that, because even outside of AA, I think a lot of people in AA are like, it's sometimes to an extent where it's only AA, it's like you gotta say yes to AA, and you gotta, but I don't know, I like to say yes to a lot of people,
yeah.
And help other people and do what I can, at least. But I find if I'm helping somebody else, I can't be focusing on my own problem.
Right.
So that's
it's a win-win.
It is a win-win for sure.
So what about your relationships? You mentioned your dad.
Yeah.
The newborn at home.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your relationships for a minute.
Oh my God. So I'm engaged. So in the past 6 months, I've gotten engaged, I've bought a house, and we had a baby.
Wow.
Yay, that's a lot of stuff. Obviously the baby I knew about before 6 months ago, but she's amazing. She's incredible. Megan, my fiance, she puts up with, I always say if she puts up with me, she'll say, no, I don't. But she's just, she knows me, and she knows my story, and she loves me in spite of it.
Right.
And we got this sweet little baby boy at home that I look at and I can't help but cry. Like, sometimes because he can't stop crying. So I'm like, oh God, please.
Right.
But it's just amazing. I think about where I was, 2+ years ago.
Yeah.
And then I sit there and I look at him and I'm just like, it's a miracle that I'm sober, and it's a miracle that he's here.
Yeah.
And there's just so much to be grateful for.
So it sounds like a lot of dreams did come true for you in the last 6 months, but what other dreams are possible now that otherwise would not have been?
Oh gosh, yeah, great question. That's it's easy for me to say, well, sky's the limit, anything's possible. I'm 39 and I realize not everything is possible. So but so much more than I could have ever imagined. I talked about like how close I was to losing what I had back then. Now I think about every day how far I am from that, and how close I keep all of that to me, all the stuff that I value. I'm pretty well set where I'm at in my career. I'm very happy with where I'm at. I would like to do other stuff, sure. I'd like to stay around here, raise our family. We just got a new house. Like, I love her. I'm like totally like suburban guy now. Like, I cut the lawn and I like make sure the lines are straight, and I'm like out there with the grill and like waving, hey Bill, It's just me. I've like embodied this whole like suburban guy dad thing, and I'm like, who am I? Like, but I love it. Like, it's just so incredible. And they say in AA, one day at a time, and don't look too far ahead and stuff. It's like, but you have to an extent.
You still do.
Yeah, it's just what you have to do.
Right.
I don't know. I see like I have this whole vision of us growing up in this house together, and us raising the kid. And it's funny, when we were in the hospital after he was born, I was like, what about another one? And like the look that my fiance gave me, I wish like you could have seen. She was like, no. And the nurse in there was like, And I was like, well, we'll talk about it. Right. But like, I mean, I could foresee that. Like, I could foresee like another kid maybe down the road. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but just raising this family, like, and raising them with it's fun, like how I was adopted and I had that book in my room and it says, why was I adopted? I've got AA literature on my bookshelves, and I want to be, when my son has that question, what's this?
Yeah.
I want to be like, let me tell you.
Right.
This is what it is. This is me. Like, this is my life. Like, this is a big part of your life too.
Right.
And
right.
I loved seeing, when I was going to in-person meetings, seeing the people in recovery that brought their kids to their leads. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that often that I saw it, but the few times I did, I'm like, wow, I was like, that's amazing.
It is.
And I don't know, I see us growing old and, like having fun and facing it, that's a big thing. Because like I talked about for so long, like I didn't face, what was in front of me. I dealt with it with alcohol and with partying, and I'm more present than I've ever been. I'm exhausted. Like, I'm working 2 jobs and you got the baby at home, and it's like, I'm so tired. But even in that, like, I used to be tired because I was up too late. Now I'm tired because I'm giving too much. Maybe not. I shouldn't say that because that sounds a little bad, but because I'm able to do all this, for me and for my family and for everyone else.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, let's talk about feelings for a second. Are you generally happier now?
Oh, yeah.
If you had to pick like your favorite feeling since getting sober,
yeah,
what would it be?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's such a good question. And this is going to sound weird. Obviously, the easy answer is happiness. Like, yes, I love that. I love waking up and looking over and seeing, my fiance and now my baby in his little bassinet. And I am just so happy. Like, it's just like, it's like I couldn't imagine starting my day any other way. But it's weird. It's not, obviously not my favorite, but being present in sadness and dealing with it, like when something, like I had a family member pass away recently, and it wasn't necessarily a family member that I was close with, but
still, yeah.
It was, the sadness came from, it was my mom's brother, and it was the last of her siblings that was alive, and he passed. And I had this sadness. It was, in a way, it was overwhelming at first, but I was present with it and I dealt with it, and I was able to talk with my family about it. And through that came like this huge celebration of, the person that he was. And then it went into like my mom and like their relationship as brother and sister. And, whereas before it was like, I would deal with it with like, oh God, here's Uncle Jim. And,
yeah.
And
just deal with it in your own
right.
head, without any help
right.
with the bottle. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, now I have so many outlets and so much support. And in a way, it's one of my favorite things is I'm able to deal with stuff.
Can you share some examples of things you've been able to do in recovery that otherwise would not have been possible?
Be a good partner. And that's easy to say, like, I'm always a good partner. Yeah, some days I have bad days. Everybody does.
Right.
But be there for other people, not even just my fiance, but you know, her kids, you know, her family. Her dad went through some medical stuff pretty recently, even a year ago, and I was able to be there, you know, for him and for her and for their family, and wouldn't have done that if I were still drinking. Absolutely not.
Right.
I wouldn't be here.
Right.
I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be at a recovery event. But that said, like, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't have a house. I wouldn't be able to keep my house. You know, I was on the verge of getting kicked out of my apartment. Like, I was behind, you know, and I was playing catch up, and I was, you know, on the verge of losing. My boss sat me down and said, "You're about to lose this job." And I opened up to her at that time. I was like, "Listen, here's what's going on." And God bless them. My work has been so supportive throughout all this. They're so happy for me. And it's like a family. It's a small company, smaller. And I wouldn't be able to do that every day. I wouldn't be able to go to work every day. Right. You know?
So what have you learned from your addiction?
I learned that I need to ask for help.
It's important too. People don't get it.
No,
it's so
I
important.
know. And
you have
it's
to
like,
learn.
You can't do it yourself.
Right.
I could not do this myself. And it's so hard to ask for help, I understand, like, but do it. You got to do it. Like, you need help. And I've learned that I am not the center of the universe. I know, it was shocking a little bit.
Wait.
Yeah.
You are not.
Let me restate that. I am not the center of the universe. And it's funny because sometimes I still am. Like, when you're like, the meetings that I go to, they're like 1 minute comments and they go around. And I'm like thinking about what I'm going to say like 30 minutes before I'm going to say it. I'm looking down the line and say, all right, here we go. I'm going to lay this on them.
This one.
The meeting over. That's it. You all can go home.
Right.
But that's like, I'm like, oh, well, that's the most self-centered thing. It's like, I'm not listening to these people where I could learn from them and I could share their stories. And so sometimes I got to get better at that, but I have learned to, you know, while I need to, you know, talk about it, I also need to listen, you know? Mm-hmm. Could do that a little better maybe.
Do you have any words of hope that you would like to share with someone trying to get sober?
You are not alone.
Words to live by.
Yeah, you are not alone. No matter how dark it is, this is all sound cliched, but that's one thing I love about AA is all the cliches, you know, like let go and let God and like all that. And it's like, if you meeting makers make it, they are there for a reason, and listen to those. Yeah. They're going to sound really corny at first. And there's going to be somebody that's going to get up at a meeting and you're going to say, what am I ever going to relate to with this person? You will, I promise you. One of my first leads, my first lead meetings that I went to early on in recovery, a woman got up there and she had to have been mid-60s. And I was like, I'm turning it off. What am I going to relate? She told my story.
Wow. Like
this 60-year-old woman, I'm like, oh, that's me. Like, you know, like we're all kind of the same, you know? We all have a very similar story.
Right.
And that's what's so great about this fellowship is, man.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like a community.
Right? You hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, there's hope.
Right.
You know, look at this person.
Right.
You know, it's ask for help. Ask for help no matter what it is. And if you feel a little bit off, don't let it get to a lot off, you know? If you feel like something might be wrong, seek out help, you know? Mm-hmm. Ask somebody, talk to somebody, and they're there for you. They might, like, and if you call somebody at 3 a.m, they might be like, oh, but they'll be there for you.
Yep.
They will.
Yep. So thank you so much for coming out here today and sharing that beautiful story with us. Is there anything that you wanted to add that I didn't ask or that I missed or anything? You are getting this journalism thing. That's a very important thing to ask at the end of every interview. Thank you. That's good. You can edit that part out. No, I'm going to keep that part. No, you covered it, man. Like, that was a great list of questions. I think you really did a good job.
And thank you for this. I did not expect this, and when you guys reached out to me, I was like, yeah, this is sweet. I didn't know this was a thing, and I'm like, yeah.
Neither did I.
Right. That got me when I got here.
Now I do.
Yeah. But this is very cool. It's been a great experience, and I appreciate it.
Thank you again for coming out. Your story is amazing, and it's going to help them. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.